What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Wave of Swan Battle Report. Trevi here, and this is going to be the Templecon 2016 Masters Finals. If you saw my last battle report, you saw the semifinal round that featured Andrew Briggs versus John Damaris, Legion versus Protectorate of Menoth, and Andrew Briggs pulled out a win by the skin of his teeth at the end of the game there, killing High Reclaimer with Absolonia 2 in melee. But today we have the Retribution of Syra coming out to play against Andrew Briggs. And this is going to be Mike Ireland's Helena list going first. So that's Magister Helena with what I think is what's going to be a pretty common battle group with her. Lots of big heavy warjacks, then Dawn Guard Sentinels to back them up with some Weapon Master attacks. The matchup today is going to be Helena versus Lilith 3. Neither player was locked in in this round, so I think Andrew decided to take Lilith because if Michael decided to take his other list, which was Osian, Lilith had a very good game, and even against Helena, Lilith 3 threatens a lot of assassination, and with the war beast she brings, can still crack a lot of armor. That is a lot of armor on the table with all those big heavy Myrmidons, as well as Helena's feet to back them up. But we'll see how Andrew can fare here. Obviously, I think Mike chose this list because it stacks armor, which is very strong against Legion of Everblight, generally speaking, as well as dealing a lot of damage at range with magic guns, so it can shoot through wind wall, and with Hand of Destruction can still take down Legion heavies with those Rate of Fire D3 Manticore guns. So very strong list for Mike here, and we'll jump over to Briggs' list in a sec and see what is going on. So here we have the Lilith 3 list, again very battle group heavy, so we're going to see a lot of War Beasts and Warjacks on the table this game, very exciting, some sweet stuff from Mark 3. But an interesting Lilith list, a little bit less of a gun line than you normally see. Either, I think, Lilith tends to stray towards big heavy gun lines with lots of individual shots to trigger her feet with the stationary, or some heavier armor in order to speed it up with Battle Host, and then Lilith can support it with her own shooting. So I've seen a lot of Carnivians and then Typhon and stuff like that. This seems to be a bit of a mixed bag. We have Typhon in there, so some close range shooting. Obviously he's very scary between the Seraph, Slipstream, and Battle Host, bringing up to a total of an 18-inch threat range on those sprays is going to be a lot of work done. There is a Naga Night Lurker in there, so any of those models can potentially ignore deceleration if they need to. There's also a Ravagore in there as another model to trigger Lilith's feet, and he's also a great late game beater. Lilith obviously can stationary whatever she wants if she has her feet available, and then the Ravagore can go in and get some work done. And Seraph to back things up as well as some support models. Only one Hellmouth in this list, which is a little bit odd for a Legion list at this point. Most Legion lists you see have two Hellmouths, and we did see two Hellmouths get played in the last game. But Lilith being mostly a ranged game doesn't really need the Hellmouths as much to drag enemy models in, as much as she needs them to sort of jam and keep models away. So I don't think she necessarily needs Hellmouths as much as other lists, although they are really good for contesting zones and just putting a lot of scenario pressure on the opponent. Scenario today is going to be take and hold. So as you can see, there's those two flags in the center there. Players can dominate their closer flag for 1 point, control the enemy flag for 1 point, or dominate it for 2 points. And we are off to the races. Mike taking the first turn, apparating up his Chimera there. Chimera is going to be very important in this matchup to get Hand of Fate on whatever Mike needs. And Hand of Fate is what really allows those Myrmidons to take out heavies. The Manticores don't tend to hit very hard on their own. They can spend a focus to get their +3 strength, and then with the concentrated power from an Arcanist mechanic, they can go up to power 20 if they need to. But Hand of Destruction really pushes them up to hitting relatively high defenses pretty regularly, and then also getting some extra damage in with that additional die. We see the Dawn Guard Sentinels moving up here. They're going to be moving around that forest, or I'm sorry, the water in the center. They have Relentless Charge in this edition, so they're going to be able to charge right over that if they need to. And if Lilith comes in to kill, I need to proc some Blood Boons, she's going to trigger Vengeance, and those guys are going to threat a really long way. Manticore's running up, it looks like. The Chimera's in range to get a Hand of Destruction out on the Hellmouth, first thing. So I think Mike's plan is going to be to set up for those Manticores to be able to take out the Hellmouth potentially, chipping into it with their POW 12 guns. Obviously, not on average dice, if they boost, they only get 1-ish damage, but Hand of Destruction can push that up so that they can really push damage through the Impervious Flesh on the tentacle there. I think that was a Hand of Destruction going on. And the support solo is running around as well. We see Lanissa Rasil moving up so that she could potentially get an attack into that Hellmouth as well. She does have a boosted damage against Legion models with the Ice Bolt, so she's going to be able to potentially get a little bit of damage on there. Rhythm of War moving the Warjacks back just in case, especially the Chimera being very important. Mike wants to keep that safe as long as possible. Moving over to Andrew's turn now, we're seeing some pre-measuring going on, and then a Hellmouth Tentacle running up in front of the Dawnguard Sentinels there, so that it's just sitting out of melee with those models, and the rest of them moving up just to basically get in the way. The great thing about those Hellmouth Tentacles is that they don't really cost any points, and the Hellmouth gets them back for free, so there's no reason, unless you need multiple tentacles in reserve for some reason, there's no real reason to keep them back. And so they're going to, they're really good at jamming and just moving far forward and really gumming up your opponent. Lilith moving up, we've got a Slipstream out on Typhon to move him forward, and then the Seraph moving up, slipstreaming itself and moving the Ravagore forward. So now what Andrew's going to do here is move the Ravagore up and use that tentacle as a targeting beacon essentially for a Scather template. So there he goes, shoots the Hellmouth Tentacle and then automatically kills it. And puts a Scather template in front of those Dawnguard Sentinels. So that's going to allow Andrew's models to move up pretty aggressively without really worrying about the Dawnguard Sentinels this turn. It's going to stifle up the Dawnguard Sentinels' movement, and without triggering any vengeance on them, they're not really going to be able to threat very far this turn. So he's not super worried about them for now. They do only get Pathfinder when they charge, so they're going to be stuck a little bit behind that, that water feature until they are able to charge something. And then with that template in the way, that's going to be even more of a problem for them to move around. So it's going to be a little tough for them to get anywhere this turn. We're back over to Mike's turn. And it's time for him to get going. We see an apparition out of the Chimera there, first off. And that's going to put him in range, I believe, to charge into that Hellmouth Tentacle in the center there in order to clean that model up. Yep, there he goes, hits it, and ends up taking it out with Hand of Destruction. So that's going to allow those Manticores a lot more freedom of movement in order to move up there and attack the Hellmouth and hopefully take it out. There goes Lanissa Rasil hitting what I think is a Hunter's Mark into the Hellmouth there. So that's going to allow a Manticore potentially to get up and then actually kill it in melee. Yep, there it goes. So one Manticore charging in for free. Unfortunately, it does not look like he rolls very well on one of his attacks. And with the Impervious Flesh in the other attack, only getting a couple points of damage in that Hellmouth. So the Hellmouth's Impervious Flesh working on melee attacks now, proving very resilient to the Myrmidons there. Next up, we have Helena going. Through the Chimera, she's going to put a Arcane Secret Hand of Destruction into the Bolt Thrower. That's the model that's going to be closest to the Hellmouth. It looks like Andrew was very aggressive with his placement of the Bolt Thrower, potentially to threaten an assassination if he could get a critical knockdown on one of those Myrmidons in front of Helena and then just get some shots into her with Lilith. But that's going to put the Bolt Thrower in danger of all these Manticore guns, and here they go. The first one getting 3 shots, hitting pretty easily with Hand of Destruction, getting a bunch of damage in with boosted damage rolls. Another hit, not quite as good a damage roll, and then a miss. Still, with Hand of Destruction, all of these D3 gunshots going in. There's another 3 shots from another Manticore. Mike rolling pretty well on his rate of fire rolls today. There's a big damage roll and doing a bunch of damage into the Bolt Thrower and taking it out. So that's going to be a huge deal for Andrew in this game. Lilith really relies on the Far Strike Animus from the Bolt Thrower in order to get her long-range bow shots out and trigger some Blood Boon on especially support models. Things like Arcanist Mechanics and Silas are always in danger as long as Lilith has access to that snipe. But without the bolt thrower on the table, she's not going to be quite as effective at doing that. We also have Helena's feet going down, so Briggs I don't think did any damage to any of the warjacks, so that part of the feat's not going to be in play, but +3 armor on everything is going to be very relevant. And then here we see a Rhythm of War to bring the Myrmidons back in front of Helena, obviously try to shut off some assassination angles from Lilith, and move the Manticore back to safety. So as we can see there, a big blow to Lilith losing that bolt thrower. Not only is that a gunshot, a potential assassination piece, but also the +4 range on her weapon with the Farstrike Animus is going to be a huge loss. And now she's got Dawnguard Sentinels all up in the way. I assume Helena cast Deflection as well, or sorry, Deceleration as well, so they're going to be very high armor against her range attacks. And we'll see how Briggs can respond. It looks like he's looking for an assassination angle at this point, but I think Helena is probably too resilient behind the wall, behind all those Myrmidons, and under her feet as well. With Deceleration, as long as there's no Naga Animus in play, she's going to be armor 20 against any ranged attacks that Briggs can put into her, as well as defense 19 until the Lilith's able to hit a stationary attack from her feet. So first off, we have an Apparition going down with the Seraph. See how Briggs can respond here. Helena poses a pretty big question on her feat turn. A bunch of armor 21 Myrmidons. They have a lot of boxes. I think 34 with the field when you take into account the field damage boxes on the what is it? House Sayer Myrmidons, I think, are the ones with the field generators. That sounds right to me. So a lot of boxes on those guys, and they're going to be able to potentially regenerate their force fields as well later on. Here's the Hellmouth going. One tentacle moving into the back arc of that Myrmidon, pulling it back into the Hellmouth, and the Hellmouth getting a couple attacks on it. The second one pulls a second Chimera, or Manticore, sorry, into range of the Hellmouth there. So Briggs obviously trying to take some heavies out this turn. Unfortunately, with Helena's feet up, they're going to be very high armor, and she's going to have a lot of trouble taking out those Myrmidons. Now, I think what he needs to do here is move up in stationary as many Myrmidons as he can with the Ravagore and with Lilith as well. And I think that's what he's doing here, shooting them with the bow. Yep. So we have bow shots going down, stationaring those two Myrmidons. So if he is unable to kill them, not only is he going to be easier to hit them with melee attacks, but also it's going to be very difficult for them to get a significant amount of damage back after they have to spend a focus to shake the stationary effect. So that's one part of Lilith's feat, and a little bit of the synergy with the bolt thrower is that she can force opponents to spend a ton of focus or fury shaking a lot of those effects. So if you can get stationary and knock down on one model, you can potentially make it very, essentially useless for a round. Just having one focus on a warjack or just one or two fury on a warbeast isn't going to be very useful. Now we saw Typhon go in there. He's the red proxy base that's next to the two Myrmidons. He went in to try to take one out. Unfortunately, the +3 armor from Helena's feet is proving pretty resilient to Typhon. He's only a power 17, and I don't think Briggs boosted damage rolls. I think he went for additional attacks, and so he wasn't able to get enough damage in to take out one of those Myrmidons. Now we saw the Naga go in there, and the Naga taking some attacks as well. The Naga does have critical Shadowbind on his weapon, so if he chooses to roll the attack, he doesn't have to because the model's stationary, but if he chooses to roll that attack and does end up rolling a crit, that is potentially another focus that Manticore will have to spend to shake, although he's in melee with everything, so I don't think the Shadowbind is going to do much, just stopping him from advancing, although he doesn't really need to go anywhere to make attacks. So we have Typhon up there. No Fury on him, fortunately, because the Forsaken was able to take it off, but in a very precarious spot. Lilith, obviously, in a pretty... She's camping a lot of Fury, so she's probably pretty safe this turn, but with the rest of the army in threat range for most of Mike's army, those Dawnguard Sentinels moving up, forcing Briggs to potentially trigger Vengeance if he kills those three that are close by. And that will put most of his Warbeasts in threat range of the Dawnguard Sentinel. So the next turn might be pretty bloody for Briggs. He might end up losing a lot of models. I think we see some additional attacks going into the Myrmidons as well. But so far it doesn't look like a lot of damage has been done to them. Here's the Seraph moving up. He's going to try to take advantage of Lilith's feet and stationary more of those Myrmidons with his D3 attacks. Looks like he's able to do that. Stationarying, it looks like Discordia as well as the Chimera. Well, I can't really tell which Myrmidons is which. So that's going to, again, make it more difficult for Mike to come back. He's going to have to force to shake stationary on those models if they want to do anything, and that's going to make it a little tougher for them to get a lot of meaningful damage through. There's the Shepherd moving up, moving around the Ravagore, it looks like, to take some Fury off, I think. Well, actually, I think that might be a run from the Shepherd there. And then here's the Ravagore taking a shot at the Shepherd in order to take it out and put a Scather template for between the Dawnguard Sentinels and Lilith. So this is a good move from Briggs here. He's protecting Lilith with models as well as with that Scather template. So she's not going to be in threat range of the Dawnguard Sentinels. Obviously, the Dawnguard Sentinels are going to be very effective at hitting. Lilith is a relatively high defense. She's defense 14, but at Mat 7, the Dawnguard Sentinels have the chance of spiking a couple attack rolls. If they hit all their attack rolls, about a 60-ish% chance, 56% chance to hit, they can do a significant amount of damage to Lilith or her battle group if they get in there. So she's able to protect herself without having to kill any of the Dawnguard Sentinels. So that Ravagore might go down, and potentially the Seraph, but she's going to be safe this turn. Now, this is going to be not a great turn for Briggs, I think. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get enough work done with his feet. The assassination threat of his feet is now off the table, so Helena is going to be a little bit more safe behind that wall, being defense 19 all the time, essentially. And without taking any of those Myrmidons out, I think she's going to be able to come back and deal a bunch of damage. Now, that said, Typhon is a bit of an issue. With excessive healing up, he's essentially armor 20 unless you can get Grievous Wounds on him, because he's going to heal any 2 damage, an average of 2 damage out of any attacks that come into him. So even at defense 13, there's a lot of Mat 6 Myrmidons on the table, so they're going to need some significant numbers to hit him. They're going to need 7s unless Helena can land a Hand of Destruction and make it a little easier, which I think is probably the plan. With Arcane Secrets, she needs a 10 to hit, so it's relatively good odds on 3d6 or on 46, and then drop the lowest to hit that Hand of Destruction. If she does, I think Typhon probably goes down to the 2 Myrmidons, but otherwise it's going to be rough. So first activation of the turn here, we see Lanissa Rasil sort of skirmishing around the edge there and taking a boosted Ice Bolt attack into what looks like a Shepherd and taking it out pretty easily. Lilith is running out of attacks to deal with solos like Lanissa, so they're going to be pretty difficult to take out, and Lanissa is going to be able to move around the edges and wreak havoc on Lilith's support solos. We also see, I believe, the Manticore taking out that Hellmouth finally, so the Hellmouth is finally gone, and then I believe Discordia is going to be activating next. I'm sorry, Arcanist moving up, powering up all of the Warjacks with Empower, so they're going to have Focus. Makes the list very focus efficient. Discordia putting a spray down to catch the Succubus as well as the 2 Warbeasts there, it looks like, so pretty strong spray. Hits the Succubus, kills her pretty easily, as well as, I believe, hits the Naga, dealing a bunch of damage. Mike rolling pretty hot on those damage rolls. Big damage roll into Typhon, it looks like, as well. And then here come the Dawnguard Sentinels. So this is going to be the big activation of the turn, I think. These Dawnguard Sentinels have charges on essentially every Warbeast that that Briggs brought. Relentless Charge, making it pretty easy for them to move across that water feature there. The rest just moving up to keep everybody in command. And then the Solus Escorts contesting Mike's flag. So we see 4 Dawnguard Sentinel charges onto the Ravagore, it looks like. 3 more onto the Seraph. And we'll see if he's able to hit the Seraph. Looks like another big damage roll for Mike. Rolling pretty well this game. And so I think that looks like a bunch of damage down onto the Seraph as well as the Ravagore. Hit on the Seraph, looks like. Couple misses, another hit for a pretty big damage roll. And the Seraph is taken out. So 1 Warbeast down this turn on Briggs' side. And then another huge attack into the Ravagore, I think. Another big one. Damn. Mike really spiking these Weapon Master damage rolls, and the Ravagore is taken out as well. So that is huge. Briggs down to just a couple of models. 2 heavies off the table this turn already, and we'll see if Typhon's going to go down. He is. So it looks like between the Manticore and those Dawnguard Sentinels there, they're able to punch through excessive healing and take out Typhon. So that's big. The last Manticore moving up there, taking some shots onto the Shepherd, I believe. And then Helena making a big play, moving over the wall. And then the Warjacks moving around to protect her. So is that right? Yeah, it looks like Helena did move across the wall there. So she's going to be a little bit in danger this turn. Now, obviously, that was an enormous turn for Mike. Doesn't look great for Briggs at this point. He's down most of his War Beasts and down to just a Forsaken, a Shepherd, and the Naga, as well as his Warlock. So it is not looking great for the Legion at this point. We'll see if Briggs can pull out an assassination run, potentially, like he did in the last game. He did end up losing a lot of War Beasts in the last game. Here's the Forsaken moving up, taking some attacks into the Dawnguard Sentinels. We can see the proxy base there for Lilith. It looks like she's going to be able to trample over most of those Dawnguard Sentinels and take attacks into Helena. I don't think Mike was really anticipated Lilith's mobility. It does look like Helena's safe there, but unfortunately, with tramples, Lilith can move potentially 12 inches and then fire an additional 12. So she's going to have an enormous threat range even without the bolt thrower Animus. Now, obviously, she's going to be very exposed after she does so, but it's something to keep in mind when you're playing against Lilith at all times. She can potentially get out and really do a bunch of damage, or potentially kill your caster if you're not worried, if you're not paying attention. Here's Lilith trampling forward and killing some of those Dawnguard Sentinels. And then I think this is the big attack. So she has a weapons platform, so she can fire while she's in melee. And she's taking some attacks into Helena. I believe Helena did cast Deceleration, and the Naga was not in place to give Wraithbane. So Lilith's needing 7s to hit and being dice minus 5 for damage, and Helena can't be enough focus to really shrug it off. So unfortunately, Lilith's last-ditch assassination there failing, but I think putting a good scare to Mike. And then we have Lilith in the center of the table, naked on Fury, and I think we know how this game's going to end. So obviously, great game. We can see the power of Helena's giant Jack Brick coming out in this particular game, really tanking a ton of damage and then coming back and wiping a bunch out. I think the Dawnguard Sentinels really make this list. There's some Dawnguard Sentinels attacking Lilith in the back arc there, doing a bunch of damage, and then it looks like a Hand of Destruction, I think, going down to make things easier for these Manticores. So obviously the Big Jack Wall being very effective, and then the Dawnguard Sentinel is able to mop up essentially everything that comes in to try to attack the Jacks. A very effective list, and I think one that we're going to see a lot in Retribution pairings in the future, especially paired with a gunline like Osian potentially, or maybe Kaelissa. And here comes the Myrmidon to deal the final blow to Lilith. And that is going to be the game. So, end of Templecon 2016 Masters Finals. Michael Ireland, the eventual victor with the Retribution of Syra. Obviously, great game to both players, and congratulations to Mike. He won this convention and took the Warmachine Weekend invitational spot from Templecon. So, yeah, well played by both. It's a pretty difficult field even to just get there. I ended up playing in this event as well. I went down in round 2 to Mike, actually. Squeaked into second place on tiebreakers, unfortunately, so Andrew ended up taking third. But obviously, very tough field, difficult convention. And congratulations to Mike for winning. I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. Let me know what you think in the comments. And stay tuned for future battle reports. I'm trying to get some games from the Nova Open up. That was this past weekend, and the awesome folks from Advanced Maneuvers ended up recording most of the games there, and I had most of my games for Masters recorded. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned. I think we're trying to work out so I can get the raw footage and make some sweet battle reports with some of the Masters games. And So yeah, stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for future videos. I got plenty to show you. Playing the crap out of some Mark III and really enjoying it. So stay tuned and keep it classy, folks.